Hello, I'm Janelle Deck, and I'm here in my workroom at Adaptive Textiles, and we're making a poof today. There are two sizes of poof inserts sold on the workroom marketplace, and we're going to be using the small insert, making a small cover. That's 20 wide, 20 deep by 12 high. There are several ways you could lay out the fabric for your cuts. I like to conserve as much fabric as possible. If your fabric was solid, you certainly could do your poof top and your poof bottom on the right side and then stack up the sides on the left. That works, but with this fabric, with this design, I might want to try and roughly center a paisley or at least keep them all going in the same direction. So I'm going to have some wasted fabric here. If you're interested in step-by-step instructions, go to the workroom marketplace. We have free poof cover instructions there. Okay, lined up on the zero marking. Since the cover top and bottom are 20 by 20 finish, I'll add 3/4 inch seam allowance, and so that would give us 3/4 at the bottom, 3/4 at the top, and that would make the square cut 21.5 by 21.5. So I'll use my grid. Here's 10, 20, 21.5. If you pull back as you cut, you can see the lines before. Cutting halfway between the 21 and 22 mark. Okay, that should be enough. And I want this in the center, so I think I like right there. So I'm gonna fold that over. And then half of 21.5 is almost 11. So almost 11 is right there, but I'm not going to cut through both. I'm just going to cut almost 11. There we go. I think I like that. Okay, now that's looking good. Now since it's a square piece, 21.5 by 21.5, I can fold on the diagonal to get my square cut over here. And I can fold on the diagonal again just to compare. Looking good. If I use the grid and confirm 10, 21.5. So we'll need to cut another one of these. If it was a solid fabric, I'd place it right up here and cut another one. This is close, but if I do that with this paisley design, we'll be a little bit, paisley will shift up this way a little bit. You know what? I'm okay with that. I think I'd rather save the fabric. Since one piece goes on the bottom of the poof and the other piece is on the top, I don't think it'll matter at all that they're not exactly the same because you don't see them in the same view. If you're cutting several poofs at a time, be sure you go back to your first cut as your pattern piece. Don't start working with your second one. Now I'm going to be fine with that placement. That'll be the bottom. Okay, and then we'll go up this side to get our 12-inch pieces, which actually have to be cut to 13.5. So I'm going to place this just to get the width of the cuts. So these are 21.5. And I have to decide, since the side cut is only 13.5, do I want to try and get a whole paisley on, or do I just have some randomness to where they fall? We're not going to get a whole paisley. So I think I like that placement. And it takes the bulk of the paisley and keeps it. And this will be cut off at the bottom. Okay, so. All right, so 12 inches plus 3/4 at the bottom, 3/4 at the top, that's 13.5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13.5. It should end up coming right about to my chalk mark, and sure enough it does. And I'll need 4 of these. I think I'm pleased with that placement. This is a really nice sturdy denim fabric, red denim. Which will be great for a durable poof cover. Okay, and I'll keep using this one to create my pattern. Top, bottom, one side. So we've got the 4 sides and a top and a bottom. And at this point, I'll need to make a decision of the direction of the paisley. So do we want it like a teardrop, or do we want it in this direction? And you know what? I think I might change my mind here. Because of this flower and this curling around, I think I'm gonna go with that as the top. There's no right or wrong. Will I like it? Oh, you know what? I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go 2 down and 2 up, because paisley can really be tossed. So let's go with that. So I'm gonna be turning 2 of my sides and 2 up. Oh, I like that idea. Okay. And the only reason why that matters is because we're putting a metal zipper on on the bottom. So this way, you can stitch that in. These metal zippers are available at the Worker Marketplace. This is the one that's 72 inches long. Let's head to the machine. We're using bonded nylon thread and a walking foot machine in order to do this like an upholstery project. You could certainly use a regular straight stitch machine and thinner thread, but I like these to really hold up. And since this is denim and a heavyweight fabric, will do well to use the walking foot machine. Let's see, that's the top. I'm gonna set that aside. That's the bottom. I'm gonna set that aside. I'm gonna work with just the side pieces, and we're gonna alternate the direction of the paisley. So, one side to the next. 3/4 inch seam allowance. As we're serging around the bottom where the zipper is going to go, I like to be mindful of the direction of my seam allowance. And I know this might seem odd, but we like it to go out on the one side and in on the other, so that on any given side, they're not both going in one direction. They're either both in or both out. So here's the first one. I'm going towards me with the seam allowance as I catch it in the serger. That means this next one, I want to be away from me. Seam allowance pushed away from me. And then this one towards me. And the next one away from me. All right, so the bottom is serged, and then we can serge all the way around whichever one we want to be the bottom of the paisley. And I think I like that for the top, so this will be the bottom of the poof. And just shaving off a little bit. And we're going to put the skinny foot in the regular straight stitch machine to insert the zipper. I like to use a skinny foot instead of the zipper foot because I like to get near the teeth, just not too close. So skinny foot keeps us just the proper distance away. To find the center of the zipper, and mark it. And then I'm going to find, let's see, I think I'll have the zipper closed down there. So I'll find the center, the top, and here we go. So I'll line those two up. This is a no pin zipper insertion. You need to make sure that the pull is down, and it is. And so the zipper is face down onto the fabric. Around the corner out a bit, and I keep the zipper at the serge line. Step it in a little bit. Round out the corner, and I'm going to go almost to the end, but not quite. Again, no pin zipper, so I'm going to find the exact placement. So what I do is I bring these corners together to kiss, and then I can pull this back and see if I've got it lined up the same way. There we go. That would be similar lineup. And here I go. I need to leave the tail free, so same rounded corners. And as I get down to this end, I know how much to round the corner just as I approach. trying to reinforce that stitch by going around again. And I can reinforce this side. So this only has a single stitch right now. Now it has double. So in order to connect here, we'll just take a scrap piece of fabric, and I need it to be about that long. I'm going to avoid the stitch. And it needs to be about the width of the zipper. I'm going to run that through the serger so that we have nice clean edges. Pleased with that. And then on this side, I'll just fold it back. There, that would work. And then I go back to stitching the zipper in. And then this time I'm gonna fold the, do I want it that way? Yeah, I think I'm gonna fold it back this way. On this machine, since it's thin thread, I'm going to do everything with the double reinforced stitch. That looked nice. Okay, so our sides loop attached to the zipper placket, and so that should be the center of the panel. One thing I like to do is mark the corners at the zipper so that we can make sure they align with these corner seams. And so if I go to each rounded corner and drop a pin in, I know that as I stitch around, I need to force it at each corner so that that lines up. So I want to slide this down a bit and reveal almost a ½ inch, at least reveal the serge stitch, so that I can get to the 3/4 inch placement here. So pin perfectly aligned to this, and see the seam allowance was caught going away from me, so we'll keep that. So once you've made the corner, you need to see how it's going to align all the way to the other edge. So I need that pin to hit this seam. A little far away from that corner, so I'm going to cheat a little bit and just take a little pucker right at the corner. And now I'm going to go around one more time to reinforce that zipper stitch. Okay, let's stitch the top on and we're done. So I'll find the center of one side. And I will stitch the sides underneath. And I'll explain why in a second. 3/4 inch seam allowance, right? Now as we approach this corner, I want to confirm this seam allowance is going away from me, so make sure that stays away from me. And then when this comes down, it should be hanging 3/4 inches over. But I'm going to round off the corners a little bit. And catching that seam allowance so that it's going the same direction as the other side. Now before I keep going down here, I need to make sure that this is going to hit 3/4 past that one, and it does. So I'll pinch there. This seam allowance is going towards me. So I'll keep it that way. And rounding the corner a little bit. Approaching another seam. Seam allowance is away from me. Slightly rounded corner. Before I get too far down the side, I check down here. 3/4 hanging over. Good. We're lining up really nicely. And this time the seam allowance is towards me. Whoop, overshot a little bit. Let me round that off a little bit better. And right back to the center. To the Serge. These long zippers make it easy to stuff. So I try to line up the cover seams with the insert seams. It'll make it easier than trying to wrestle once it's on the inside. And once I'm on this stage, it's much easier to play with seam allowance now. So I'm gonna make sure that the seam allowance, just like with box cushions, the seam allowance is gonna push to the sides rather than resting on the top. That looks really nice there. And same thing over here. You see how it's flipping? I want to get in here and push the seam allowance to the sides. That'll allow the corners to fill out better. And it'll look like you've got straighter stitches, even though that's really not what's going on. Well, I'm pleased with that. How much fabric did we use? Let's figure it out. We've got, let's see, if it was a solid fabric, remember what took the most fabric use is cutting the 4 sides, up the sides. And so that was 13.5 inches times 4. That's 54 inches of fabric, so about 1.5 yards. I'd get a little more than 1.5 yards if it's a solid fabric. And you can get the top and bottom on the right side and the 4 cuts of the sides up the left. So really economical use of fabric. With this particular one, we had the repeat of the paisleys to consider, which affected how we spaced the side pieces. And we ended up, the repeat on the paisley is about 20 inches. And so it took, instead of 13.5 inches for each side vertically, it took the repeat length. So 20 inches. 20 inches times 4, 80 inches divided by 36. So given this repeat, actual fabric use, 2.25 yards. And I think I would definitely, considering your repeat, consider buying 2.5, maybe even 3 yards if you've got a larger repeat to consider. And there you have it. Poof cover done. Let's see how it works. Love it.